Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the sneak peek for the upcoming readings for this Sunday being the Feast of the Holy Family. But this feast day always takes place just a few days after we celebrate Christmas Day. Because in this Feast of the Holy Family, we are given the model and the example of the Holy Family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. And it's an opportunity for us to reflect on our own family life and how the Holy Family is meant to serve as a model for us and how we are meant to model our family life after theirs. So in our first reading today from the prophet Samuel, the first reading from 1 Samuel chapter 1, and just a little backstory for to the reading that we have for today. This reading focuses on the figure of Hannah. Now Hannah was an older woman who had not been graced with any children yet. And so she prayed to the Lord asking for the gift of a child. And the Lord blessed her and her husband with the gift of a son. And so Hannah, in thanksgiving to God, returns Samuel to the Lord in a certain sense. She brings him to the Lord and consecrates him as what's called a Nazirite. Hannah will use that word. The word Nazirite references a group of people in the Old Testament, and they were a group of people who made specific vows, specific promises to the Lord, and they were looked upon as being specially consecrated to the Lord. And so what Hannah is doing is, in thanksgiving for the gift of her son, Hannah is giving her son back to the Lord, consecrating him and saying he is dedicated to the service of the Lord. And it's important for us to look at this, my brothers and sisters, and to see how all of us experience the same thing. That in family life, children are meant to be brought to the Lord, brought to the church, and to be consecrated through the sacrament of baptism. That every child that enters into a family is a gift from God. And so in thanksgiving to God for the gift of that child, we in turn give our children back to the Lord and say they are consecrated to your service. And through baptism, God adopts us as his beloved sons and daughters. And so it's important for us to remember that baptism gives each and every one of us our end goal, heaven. That we are not consecrated for this world, we are rather consecrated for God and spending eternity with him in heaven. That should be our goal. That should be the goal of family life. Our responsorial psalm for today speaks of that. That responsorial psalm is Psalm 84, and the psalmist speaks of the soul yearning and pining for the courts of the Lord. That our souls, my brothers and sisters, should be yearning and pining for the courts of the Lord in the heavenly kingdom. That family life, the hustle and bustle of family life, especially nowadays, family life is so busy. Between what the kids are involved in, between what parents and guardians are doing, it can seem like everyone is running around in different directions, and we're focusing on this life. But the goal of family life, one of the important things to remember about family life, is that it is meant to instill in us a yearning for heaven. Family life is not just preparing us to go out into this world. Family life is preparing us for the world to come. And it's an important thing that we be reminded of that as, our families are very busy during not just during the Christmas season, but it seems throughout the year, that we look at that and say, okay, do I need to be this busy? Do I need to be involved in all of these things? Are all of these things helping me to yearn and pine for the courts of heaven and for the heavenly kingdom? And then in our second reading, from the first letter of St. John, 1 John chapter 3, St. John writes that because we are his children, we keep his commandments. That because we are his children through baptism, and St. John will say, see what love the Father has given us that we are his children. And that's important for us to remember, that it is through the sheer grace and love of God that he adopts us as his beloved sons and daughters. So it's in love that we were baptized and brought into God's family, the family of the church. And so, because we are his children, and that is a great reality, because we are his children, we must keep his commandments. We must keep his commandments and do what pleases him. And this is really one of the primary purposes of what is called the domestic church. The domestic church being the church of the family, the church of the home. One of the primary purposes of the domestic church is to pass on the faith to the children of the family. That's one of the promises, the promise that parents make at the sacrament of baptism. The priest or the deacon asks if parents are ready to undertake the responsibility of raising their child in the faith. And parents answer that they are ready to do that. And so they make that promise before God. And so one of the primary purposes of the parents in the domestic church is to pass on the faith to their children. To pass on the faith and teaching their children through word and especially example how to keep God's commandments and how to do what pleases him. It's not just about teaching the faith as in a classroom. It's above all through example and really a living out of the faith each and every day. How can we be authentic Catholics in the world today? Not in a showy way, not in a way to show off, but how are we living out our faith each and every day? Are we living from Sunday to Sunday, or are we extending the graces of Sunday throughout the entire week? One of these main purposes of the domestic church, passing on the faith to their passing on the faith to the children, so that they in turn can pass on the faith, and keeps going down through the generations. And then finally, in our gospel, the gospel that we know so well from the second chapter of St. Luke's gospel, the finding of Jesus in the temple, the fifth joyful mystery of the Rosary. And of course, we know that story. Mary and Joseph lose Jesus on the way back from Jerusalem, and they find Jesus sitting in the temple instructing the teachers, and Jesus saying to them, why were you looking for me? Didn't you know I have to be in my Father's house about my Father's business? But then, almost as an ending to this gospel passage, it talks about how the Lord went with them to Nazareth and was obedient to them. And that's something interesting for us to think about. It's not just a throwaway detail, but that Jesus was obedient to Mary and Joseph. That, remember who Jesus is. Jesus is the Son of God. Jesus is the second person of the Blessed Trinity. He is God himself. God himself made himself subject and obedient to human beings. God himself made himself obedient to human beings. Such great humility that our Lord is showing us. And really, that's such a model for us, but especially for children. Can always be a struggle, doing everything, our parents ask us to do, but that Jesus himself was obedient. Jesus himself was obedient to Mary and Joseph. God himself was obedient to Mary and Joseph. And if God is doing that, it was for a purpose. It was to be an example for all of us. How we are called to be obedient to our superiors or those in authority over us, but especially children being obedient to their parents. That Jesus showed Mary and Joseph great love in being obedient to them, and if he was doing that for our example, then we should be following that example. And so during these Christmas days, it is my prayer that the joy of the Holy Family and the love of the Holy Family will be yours during this Christmas season, and that we may always look to imitate the example of the Holy Family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. God bless you.